Welcome back, ground hoppers, and today I'm going to be talking about Scottish football, or to be more precise, the Scottish League structure, and why I think having an enlarged Scottish Premiership will close the gap between the top two, Rangers and Celtic, and the chasing pack. I've got a few stats and some facts to back this up as well. Let's take a look. Okay, so before we start, yes, I'm an Englishman, but I absolutely love Scottish football. I've been to many Scottish games over the years, and just check out my ground hopping videos on this channel and you'll see exactly where I've been in Scotland. But the plan is to complete all 42 grounds over the next couple of years, and I've got a trip planned to Scotland very soon. So I am on your side. I'm not having a dig at Scottish football leagues. I just think it could be a better product than teams playing each other 4 times a season, and I just think the chasing pack playing effectively 8 Old Firm games, if they finish in the top half, is having a huge impact in them even getting close to the top 2. And I've got some stats to back this up, and I'll happily share them with you. So to do some comparisons, I've picked the largest 3 teams outside of Rangers and Celtic by crowd size. So we're looking at Aberdeen, Hearts and Hibs, and I accept that these 3 don't always finish third, because Kilmarnock and Motherwell finished third last few years, but I'm just using them as a reference point so I can compare and contrast. So we're going to start first with Aberdeen. As you can see, so these are the last 20 league games Aberdeen have played against Celtic and Rangers. And on the screen there you can see that out of the last 20 league games, which there's obviously 60 points available, Aberdeen have only gained 6 points out of 60. So they've dropped 54 points in the last 5 seasons. They're slightly better against Rangers, so they've gained 12 points out of 60, but they've dropped 48 points. And I've done the same comparison with Hearts. So again, Hearts versus Celtic, out of the last 20 games, they've gained 9 points out of 60, but they've dropped 51 points. And Hearts against Rangers, they've gained 7 points out of 60, and they have dropped 53 points. And finally with Hibernian, so Hibs versus Celtic, the best performance so far. So out of the last 60 points, they've managed to gain 16, but they've dropped 44. And Hibs versus Rangers, they've gained 9 points out of 60, but they have dropped 51. So as you can see from them stats, the 3 biggest clubs, Aberdeen, Hearts and Hibs, they are dropping some serious points against the top 2. And this explains why there's like a 20-point gap come Christmas, because they just can't seem to get many wins against the top 2, because they're playing them so many times. So if you're playing a good team 4 times, or 2 good teams 8 times a season, you may win 1, you may draw 1, but the chances are you're going to lose the other 6, and these stats back that up pretty much. And as you can see on the screen now, sort of a chronological order of how bad the teams have done over the last sort of 20 games, with Aberdeen sort of on top with 54 points dropped, 53 by Hearts, as you can see down. So the best performing team is Hibs versus Celtic, where they've only dropped the mere 44 points, but they've only gained 16 out of 60. So that's where the problem is, I think personally, is they're playing the Old Firm too many times. And before people start shouting at me on the comments, I understand why the league is the way it is. I know, like, for example, Sky Sports pretty much demand 4 Old Firm games a season for the TV rights. And I understand why teams want to play 2 home games against Celtic and 2 against Rangers, because obviously revenue, there's not so much money in Scottish football, and they do bring large away fans, away numbers to the ground. So I completely get the argument why you want to keep the status quo, but from a footballing point of view and from a competition point of view, it's completely killing the Premier League, the Premiership. And I think there's been a few changes, because when I was at St Mirren last season, I was talking to some of the fans, and they pretty much cut the away allocation for the Old Firm. So they don't pretty much have half the ground anymore. They just have a stand behind the goal. And I think that's a pretty good move, because it just makes it a bit, why give Rangers and Celtic half the ground. It's given them a massive advantage when they're playing away from home. So what I've done, I've just looked at the last season's results for these three clubs against the Old Firm. So Aberdeen, so you see on the screen now, so Aberdeen versus Celtic, they lost all 4 games. So they gained no points out of 12. And Aberdeen versus Rangers, they won 1 game. They gained 3 points. So out of a possible 24 points, they got 3 points out of 24, dropping 21. Hearts versus Celtic, no points. Hearts versus Rangers, they got 1 draw. So out of 24 points, they gained 1 point. Hibs versus Celtic, they got 3 points. And Hibs, which is 1 win, Hibs versus Rangers, they got a point, as in 1 draw. So out of 24 points, they gained 4, dropping 20, and that's where the problem is. So what do I think is the solution after looking at them stats? I think personally an enlarged Premiership, taking it to 20 teams, which means you play 38 games, which is the same now as what they play. And this is the reason why I think the gap will be smaller. I'm not saying they're going to win the league straight away, but I just think the gap will be smaller. So this is what I think the division would look like if there was 20 teams in the Premiership. And what I've done, I've just got the 12 teams in the Premier League now, and I've just picked the eight biggest teams outside of the Premier League. And this is who I think should make up the Premier League. So as you can see there, you've got Falkirk, Adrianians, sort of Partick Thistle, Greenock Morton, etc. And due to sort of the larger size of the league, so for example, Aberdeen, they wouldn't be playing Celtic 4 times and Rangers 4 times. They'll only play them twice. Once home, once away. They'll play Celtic once home, once away. So I use Aberdeen as an example. So the other 4 games, they will play, I don't know, for example, they'll play Falkirk home and away, and they'll play Partick Thistle home and away. And there's a good chance, with a good Aberdeen side, they could actually beat Falkirk home and away, and they could beat Partick Thistle home and away. So they actually gain 12 points out of them 4 games. So you can see where I'm going with this. So instead of the gap being sort of 24 points around about April time, the gap may only be 12 points, which makes the league tighter, which makes people more interested and not so much disengaged come April when it's such a large gap between 2nd and 3rd place. And the sorts of the same can be spoken about Hearts and Hibs as well. So I just think by playing the Old Firm less, the bigger teams, or every team, would have more chance because they've got more chance of winning against a smaller club for the likes of Aberdeen, Hearts and Hibs. And also as well, there's no guarantees that sort of Rangers and Celtic, if they're only playing 1 away game to Ayr United or Greenock Morton, you know, that'll be their cup final for that season. So might be a draw, or the home side might even nick a win. So again, that will close the gap even further if them other teams were to win all them games, or at least get 10 points out of 12 points. So I think that's why I think it will make it more competitive. It'll make it more interesting. And just looking at that division on the screen now, I mean, you can see how many different derbies you'd have. I mean, you'd have the Dundee derby, you have the Highland derby, Ayrshire derbies there, the Renfrewshire derby, sort of Falkirk, Dunfermline derby. So I just think there'd be a more interesting league, and it'd just be more interesting ties. And look, I don't know about you, but I just think when a team plays a team 4 times a season, and they may even play them in the FA Cup and the League Cups, it could even be 6 times a season. I can't see that being entertaining. Let me know. Please comment. And by the way, if you haven't already subscribed, and you haven't already done so, please hit the subscription button. Please like and please comment. Let me know what you think. Do you think an enlarged Premiership would work, or keeping it the same is best for everybody? But the way I look at it is, if you don't change things, things will never change. So I can't see this ever changing if you just keep the status quo. So moving on to the league structure. So you would have Premiership would be 20 teams, and you'd have a Championship of 22 teams, and there's your 42 teams in the league. And, you know, I think you could have 2 go up automatically with playoffs, 3 come down from the Premiership. And then I think, personally, why don't we just have 2 relegated from the Championship into the Highland and the Lowland Leagues, and maybe the top team from each Highland and Lowland Leagues go up automatically. And I think that would really chop it up a bit and really sort of get teams moving up through the pyramid. And that's my opinion on why I think the Scottish League could be more competitive. the gap would shrink between the top 2 and 3rd place because you're not playing 8 Old Firm games a season, you're only playing 4. And I just think it'll make the league more competitive. And, you know, I'm not saying that Aberdeen, Hearts and Hibs or Kilmarnock or Motherwell would win the league next season or the season after, but I just think it would tighten the gap up the top between the 2nd and 3rd. And there'd just be a lot more interesting games come sort of February, March, instead of all these dead rubbers where it's literally out of Rangers and Celtic and everyone's fighting for 3rd place. I just think that that gap's made smaller. People would show a lot more interest in football, Scottish football. As I say, I love Scottish football. I'm not having a dig. I just want to see a better product. I love watching the passion of fans through all the divisions, and I always say how surprised I am. There are a lot of, I would say, uneducated English fans that slate Scottish football and the league system. It just annoys me when I read the comments because they've never even been to a game. They just look at Rangers and Celtic and that's it. And take it from me, Scottish football is not all about Rangers and Celtic. I can vouch for that. I've been to playoff games, I've been to promotion games, and I've been to relegation games last season, and it's a really great product. I just want to see it better. I just want to see another team win the Premiership in my lifetime. Because to be waiting, well, since I think like 1985, Aberdeen was the last winner. Come on, surely there must be another team now that can win at least one title. And I just think this would make it tighter, sooner. Let me know what you think. Do you think there should be a bigger league? Do you think there should be less games for the Old Firm? In an ideal world, or do you have another opinion? Do you think the league should be divided in a different way? Let me know. Drop a comment in the box at the bottom. Hit the like button if you like the video. As I say, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. Thanks for watching. Thanks for getting to the end. I'll be up in Scotland soon to watch some more games, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.